The next amendment in the area of reverse charge. Friends, the persons other than the supplier who are liable to pay taxes. You have 9 subsection 3, 9 subsection 4, 9 subsection 5. Parallelly, you have 5 subsection 3, 5 subsection 4 and 5 subsection 5 of the IGST law. So now friends, as regards as 9 subsection 3 and 5 subsection 3, 9 subsection 3 of CGST, 5 subsection 3 of IGST is concerned, the provision was the supplier could be any person, the recipient could be any person, the goods or services should be notified. In such case, it is the recipient of services who is supposed to pay GST under reverse charge mechanism. So now friends, as regards as notification is concerned for services, the notification under central tax and you have under integrated tax. Central tax, it is 13/2017 central tax rate. Integrated tax, you have 10/2017 integrated tax rate. Now friends, for this attempt, there are few additions which are being made to these respective notifications, 13/2017 for central tax and 10/2017 for integrated tax. Let's have a look what are those additions or what are those amendments in these notifications. Business facilitator. Now friends, Reserve Bank of India, before understanding this business facilitator reverse charge, let us try to understand what is meant by business facilitator. Now friends, Reserve Bank of India has permitted two types of intermediaries as a policy of financial inclusion. That means to involve more and more people into the banking sector, to involve more and more people to the banking industry. As a policy of its financial inclusions, Reserve Bank of India has permitted two types of intermediaries. One, it is business facilitator, another one is business correspondent. Both of them are intermediaries but with slight difference. There is a difference in the scope of work which is being done by a business facilitator and by a business correspondent. Now what do you mean by business facilitator? Business facilitator undertakes works of an intermediary, such as he identifies who are the potential borrowers who can borrow a loan from the bank. He receives application from them. He assists the bank in processing those applications. Likewise, he basically does the documentation work. This is the work of business facilitator. As regards as business correspondent is concerned, it is as good as branch of a bank. As good as branch of a bank. So business correspondent, an intermediary, he can receive deposits from public. He can receive small deposits from public. He can allow withdrawal of money by the public from their accounts. He will undertake the process of recovery of loans on behalf of the bank. So business correspondent, the work, the coverage of this intermediary is broader as compared to business facilitator. So on a larger sense, you can understand business facilitator is a normal intermediary. Business correspondent is an intermediary which technically acts like a branch of a bank. Transacting with business correspondent is as good as transacting with the branch of the bank itself. Now friends, let it be business facilitator or business correspondent. Friends, please understand, we have not yet gone into the reverse charge notification. We are only trying to understand how this model works. So let it be business facilitator or a business correspondent. Whom are they going to charge for their services? The charge for their services, they are going to charge not the customers, they are going to charge the bank. So let it be business facilitator or the business correspondent. The services which are being performed is to the bank. They are being appointed by the bank and they are supplying services to the bank and not to the public or not to the people who are transacting or who are dealing with business facilitators or business correspondent. So they would raise an invoice upon the bank. Business facilitator and the business correspondent, they will charge for their services to the bank. The bank in turn might charge the customer, and let's suppose the business facilitator for a particular transaction has charged some 5 rupees to the bank. The bank may charge to the customer 10 rupees and GST needs to be paid upon the entire 10 rupees by the bank when it is charging this 10 rupees to the customer. In this regard, there was a circular. Although it was not very important, I thought while covering business facilitator and the business correspondent, we will simultaneously cover this circular as well. So the circular simply tells you that this business facilitator and the correspondent, they supply services to the bank. They are going to charge to the bank. Now when they are going to charge to the bank for their services, whether it is forward charge or reverse charge, that we are going to see now. But their charge is going to be the bank. Bank in turn will charge the customer and it will charge GST on the entire value to which the customer's account is debited. So now friends, coming to the services supplied by business facilitator and by business correspondent. To whom are they supplying these services? They are supplying these services to banks. So services provided by a business facilitator, intermediary. The service provider is business facilitator. The recipient of service is a banking company which is located in the taxable territory. So the services of a business facilitator are taxable under reverse charge mechanism. The banking company is supposed to be GST under reverse charge mechanism. Next is business correspondent. What do you mean by business correspondent? It is as good as branch of a bank. But friends, please be very careful with the wordings. As regards as business facilitator was concerned, the provision, the reverse charge notification told you services provided by business facilitator to the bank. But coming to the business correspondent model, it tells you services provided by an agent of the business correspondent. Services provided by an agent of the business correspondent to the business correspondent himself. That is liable to be taxed under reverse charge mechanism. That is liable to be, it does not cover services by business correspondent to bank. It is covering services by an agent of business correspondent to the business correspondent. What do you mean by that? These business correspondents, they can further appoint sub intermediaries. They can appoint their own agents. Now when the agents of business correspondent who are applied by the business correspondent are supplying services to this business correspondent, GST is liable to be paid under reverse charge mechanism by the business correspondent. What about the services by a business correspondent to the bank? It is taxable under forward charge mechanism. That is not covered under reverse charge mechanism. Friends, don't get confused. As regards as business facilitator is concerned, business facilitator to bank, it is reverse charge. As regards as business correspondent is concerned, agent of business correspondent to the business correspondent, it is under reverse charge mechanism. So this will give you a better analysis. An agent of business facilitator, even the business facilitator can appoint his own agent. Agent to the business facilitator to bank. What is there under reverse charge? Business facilitator to bank, it is under RCM. Agent of business facilitator to the business facilitator, it is there under forward charge mechanism. Next you have agent, business correspondent and bank. What is there under reverse charge mechanism? Agent of business correspondent to the business correspondent, it is there under reverse charge mechanism. Business correspondent to the bank, it is there under forward charge mechanism. So friends, please don't get confused. You can remember an acronym, it is ABC, that is agent of business correspondent. It is not the agent of business facilitator. Agent of business correspondent to business correspondent, reverse charge mechanism. Business facilitator to bank, reverse charge mechanism. All other permutations and combinations, it is under forward charge mechanism. Next is in case of goods transport agency services. Now here, as regards as GTA services is concerned, this was already there in the reverse charge notification. There is an amendment which is there as regards as this entry in notification number 13/2017 is concerned. Let's quickly brush up what did the entry tell you initially. It told you services by a GTA in relation to transportation of goods by road. Which GTA? That GTA who has not opted to pay taxes upfront, that means under forward charge at the rate of 12%. So that GTA who is not opted for paying GST under forward charge mechanism at the rate of 12%, he is the service provider. The services are transportation of goods by road. Who is the service recipient? The service recipient is any of these specified persons. If all these criteria are satisfied, that means the supplier of service is a GTA who is not opted at 12% under forward charge. The services are transportation of goods by road. Recipient of service is one among these specified persons. Then, in that case, these specified persons who are the recipient of services are liable to pay GST under reverse charge mechanism. Now friends, please concentrate on this clause number D. It tells you any person who is registered under the GST law, any person who is registered under the GST law, if the services are received by this particular person who is registered under the GST law, and if the other conditions are satisfied, that means the GTA is not opting to pay tax at 12%, these services are liable to be taxed at reverse charge mechanism. Now friends, as regards as registration is concerned, you would have already covered this while learning the registration chapter. As regards as registration is concerned, you can take registration in multiple capacities. As regards as registration is concerned, you can obtain registration in multiple capacities. You can obtain registration as a taxpayer either under forward charge or under reverse charge. You can obtain registration as a taxpayer. You can obtain registration in the capacity of a tax deductor or a tax collector, that is for the purpose of deducting TDS and TCS. You can obtain registration as the capacity of tax distributor. You can obtain registration in the capacity of a tax distributor, that is input service distributors. So these are the capacities in which you can obtain registration. It is similar to your Income Tax Act. For the purposes of paying income tax, you are supposed to take registration, that is nothing but your PAN number. For the purpose of deducting TDS under the income tax law, can you do that with your PAN number alone? The answer is no. You have to take the registration in the capacity of a tax deductor. So you have to apply for a TAN number under income tax law. So even under income tax law, you can obtain registration in various capacities. As a taxpayer, you have a PAN number. As a tax deductor, you have a TAN number. Similarly, under GST, in taxpayer, you have your GSTIN. In the capacity of taxpayer, either you pay taxes under FCM or under RCM, doesn't matter. You need to obtain a GSTIN. In the capacity of a tax deductor, you need to apply for a TDS number. In the capacity of a tax collector, you need to apply for a TCS number. In the capacity of a tax distributor, you need to apply for an ISD number. Now friends, you may act in various capacities. You may be a taxpayer. You also may be a tax deductor. You also may be an input service distributor. Are you supposed to take 3 separate GST numbers? The answer is yes. Friends, please understand, it is single registration, agreed. But in which capacity? For the purpose of paying CGST, SGST, IGST, you need not take separate registration. It is a single registration. But when you are acting in various capacities, you have to take registration in the capacity of taxpayer. If you are also liable to deduct TDS, you are also supposed to take a separate TDS number. If you are also supposed to distribute taxes, you are also supposed to take an ISD number. So now friends, with this basic background, let us understand as regards as section 51 is concerned. Section 51 casts the responsibility. Section 51 of the CGST Act, it casts the responsibility on few notified persons. If they are receiving inward supplies in excess of 2.5 lakh rupees, they are supposed to deduct TDS and remit the TDS to the government. This responsibility is being casted by section 51 of the CGST law, not upon all persons, upon certain notified persons. If they are receiving supplies greater than the specified amount, they are supposed to deduct GST TDS and remit it to the government. Now, for the purpose of deducting GST TDS, you need to obtain a GST TDS number. You need to get registered as a tax deductor. And friends, the moment you get registered, even in the capacity of a tax deductor, are you a registered person? The answer is yes. Friends, what do you mean by a registered person? A registered person means a person who is registered under the GST law. It doesn't speak about in which capacity. If you are registered in the capacity of a taxpayer, you are a registered person. If you are registered in the capacity of tax deductor, you are still a registered person. If you are registered in the capacity of a tax distributor, you still are a registered person. Registered person does not mean obtaining registration in the capacity of taxpayer alone. You may be a tax deductor, you still are a registered person. Now, having understood the entire raw material which is essential to understand this amendment, now we proceed to the amendment. Section 51 of the CGST law, it tells you certain notified recipients of inward supplies. If they are receiving supplies greater than a specified limit, that is 2.5 lakh rupees. These recipients needs to deduct TDS paid to the government. For the purpose of deducting TDS, they need to obtain TDS registration. The moment they obtain TDS registration, they become registered persons. Now friends, there may be a strange scenario where there could be a person, he otherwise maybe is purely supplying exempt services. Please understand this. There could be a person who is purely making exempt supplies. Is he liable to be registered under section 23? As regards to section 23 is concerned, it is granting him relief that those persons who are making exclusively exempt supplies need not get registered at all. So now he is, according to section 23, he will not get registered in the capacity of taxpayer. But please understand, under section 51, if this particular person is notified that in case if you are receiving inward supplies in excess of 2.5 lakh rupees, you need to deduct TDS. For the purpose of deduction of TDS, he needs to obtain registration. Now he is not taking registration in the capacity of taxpayer. Rather, he has no taxes to be paid on his outward supplies. But he has to obtain registration in the capacity of a tax deductor. And the moment he obtains, he becomes a registered person. And the moment he becomes a registered person, here this reverse charge notification, in case if he is receiving any inward supplies, from a goods transport agent who has not opted for 6%, that is 12% totally, now he is liable to pay GST under reverse charge mechanism because he is a person who is registered under the GST law. So to overcome this, they have brought in an amendment which tells you, provided that nothing contained in this entry shall apply to a department or establishment of the central government or state government or union territory or local authority or government agencies which has taken registration under the CGST Act 2017 only for the purpose of deducting taxes under section 51 of the said act and not for making any taxable supply of goods or services. So friends, what it is trying to tell you, if you have taken registration only and only for the purpose of complying with section 51, in that case, this reverse charge notification is not applicable. Friends, I repeat again, section 51, it specifies lot many notified persons. It doesn't cover only this department or establishment of central government, state government, union territory, local authority or government agencies. It also has got public sector enterprises, PSUs. But all those persons who are covered under section 51 are not covered over here. Please understand this. Here, who is covered? Only and only, even in the section 51, there are specified persons. Amongst those specified persons, they have not taken everybody. They have taken only department or establishment of the government, that is central, state, union territory or local authority, and governmental agencies. So only these guys, if they have obtained registration only for the purpose of tax deduction and not for the purpose of making any taxable outward supplies and paying taxes thereon, in such case this RCM notification is not applicable to them. Say for example, there is a local authority who has taken GST TDS registration. Now this local authority is receiving services from a GTA who has not opted for 6%, in total 12%. He is a registered person. Is this reverse charge notification applicable? The answer is no. Because of this proviso, it is not applicable. Now friends, if it is not applicable, do you mean to say no taxes needs to be paid at all? The answer is no. This is only notification number 13/2017, which tells you reverse charge is not applicable. If reverse charge is not applicable, that means what? Friends, reverse charge is an exception. Forward charge is the general scenario. So if you are not covered under reverse charge, by default, you fit into forward charge mechanism. So friends, this proviso doesn't tell you taxes need not be paid. It only tells you reverse charge is not applicable. So now friends, because of this proviso, the tax liability is again shifted on the supplier. It has again shifted on the goods transport agent himself, wherein now a GTA is there. He is supplying services to a registered person who has taken registration only for the purpose of TDS deduction and who happens to be department or establishment of the government or government agency. In such case, these services are taxable under forward charge mechanism. I am sure you are able to follow this. I will slightly supplement this with another point which will give you a wholesome view. After having covered under forward charge mechanism, notification 11, notification 12/2017, central tax rate is exempting these services. I repeat again friends, if GTA services are supplied to this government who is registered only for the purpose of deduction of TDS, 13/2017 central tax rate doesn't cover it. It says reverse charge not applicable. That means forward charge. Even despite coming to forward charge, the exemption notification 12/2017 is exempting this transaction. Friends, please try to understand the logical flow. 13/2017 is not exempting it. It is only throwing it outside reverse charge. It comes under forward charge. Now 12/2017 central tax rate is exempting this transaction, and this transaction happens to be exempted. I will tally it again when we are going to see the exemption sector for these amendments. As of now, you need to just remember this. The next is security services. New addition, it is a new entry. Security services, that is services provided by way of supply of security personnel. Service provider. If the service provider happens to be any person other than a body corporate, the recipient of service happens to be a registered person who is located in taxable territory. Then according to 13/2017 central tax rate, it is the recipient of service who is liable to pay GST under reverse charge mechanism. Now friends, there is a proviso. Reverse charge mechanism is not applicable. The proviso first part is what we have just seen now. It tells you a department or establishment of the central government, state government, union territory, local authority, or a governmental agencies which has taken registration only and only for the purposes of deduction of TDS, only and only for the purpose of deduction of TDS, such case RCM is not applicable. It doesn't exempt it. 13/2017 does not have the power to exempt a transaction. Its power is only limited to tell whether reverse charge is applicable or it is not applicable. Now in this case, it tells you this is outside reverse charge. The same thing, let's suppose there is a local authority. It is receiving services from a security personnel. There is a manpower, there is a security service supplier. Let's suppose Tamil Nadu Security Services supplying services to Coimbatore Municipal Corporation. Now this Coimbatore Municipal Corporation is registered under GST law, but only for the purpose of deduction of TDS, not for the purpose of making any taxable supplies. Is this taxable under? Is this taxable under reverse charge mechanism? The answer is no. It is not taxable under reverse charge mechanism. Is this exempted? It is taxable under reverse charge? No. It comes under forward charge. Under forward charge, is it exempted? The answer is no. Friends, only those GTA services what we have seen in the previous slide, that from reverse charge it comes to forward charge. After coming into forward charge, it is exempted by notification number 12/2017. 12/2017 doesn't exempt these services. So in these cases, the security personnel has to pay GST under forward charge mechanism when the services are supplied to these entities. The second point tells you, proviso has got two limbs. The second limb tells you, a registered person who is paying taxes under section 10 of the said act. That means, if the security personnel is supplying services, the supplier of service should be a person other than a body corporate. That means either a proprietor or a partnership firm. If a body corporate is supplying services, it is always under forward charge. Now, a proprietary concern or a partnership firm is supplying services to a person who is registered under GST, but he has opted to pay taxes under section 10. Then this proviso tells you he is outside reverse charge. So when he is outside reverse charge, he comes into forward charge. Should he pay taxes? The answer is yes. There is no exemption which is given over here. So friends, 13/2017, as regards the security services is concerned, there are cases where any person other than a body corporate happens to be the supplier, recipient happens to be a registered person in taxable territory, it is RCM. Proviso has got two limbs. Proviso is exception which tells you cases not covered under reverse charge. The first point, exactly what was there in GTA. The only difference is in GTA, from RCM it took to FCM, and from FCM again it became exempted. But in security services, from RCM it goes to FCM and it is not exempted. The next case is a person who is registered under section 10. This second limb was not there in GTA services. This is there only in security services. So from RCM it goes to FCM. From FCM there is no exemption which is being given. It remains taxable. The security services supplier needs to pay GST under forward charge mechanism. Government includes Parliament as well as State Legislative Assembly. Friends, in notification number 13/2017 central tax rate, 10/2017 integrated tax rate, which notifies various category of services which are liable to be taxed under reverse charge mechanism. Wherever they have used the word government, it will also include Parliament as well as State Legislative Assemblies. So friends, if reverse charge is applicable or if reverse charge is not applicable to government, it will be applicable or it will be not applicable to Parliament as well as State Legislative Assembly.